Hi folks, welcome to your mwis Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Now, it's still a story of wild winter weather, I'm afraid, during the week ahead, with a series of Atlantic storm systems moving in across the British Isles, and some powerful systems at that, into the middle of next week. Frequent precipitation, and that will be a mixture of rain, snow and sometimes hail across the mountains as temperatures rise and fall. The Scottish mountains more often staying sub-zero, so accumulations of snow expected here, with only short-lived periods of thaw towards the higher tops, whereas for England and Wales, the periods of freeze are shorter-lived, so accumulations of snow are generally less, but do be aware of some icy conditions though at times. Let's start off with a look at that freezing level, and just for the weekend first of all. Now, as we go overnight into Saturday, temperatures are already rising with a warm front coming in from the west, and that will lift the freezing level by dawn to around 1,000 metres or even above across much of the Highlands. A slower rise to 800 metres and above across England and Wales, but even here, as we go through the morning, temperatures will lift above freezing point, most likely to the highest tops in England and Wales. It gets to around 1,200 metres or so in the Highlands, but as we go through the afternoon, a lowering of freezing level back to around 1,000 metres or below will extend across the Highlands. Into Sunday, another weather system coming in from the southwest will generally see England and Wales above freezing point on the mountains, but the highest tops will be close to zero, and if the precipitation that comes in gets particularly heavy, then that could well just see some snow fall across the high tops in Snowdonia and across the lakes and the highest parts of the Pennines. For the Highlands, it stays at around 800 to 1,000 metres as we go through the day, lowest in the north. Here's the chart for Saturday, and it's a rather wild picture. Southwesterly winds in charge, gales or severe gales across many of the mountains, the strongest speeds across England and Wales with 60 to 70 miles per hour plus across the tops for most of the day. Slightly lower speeds in Scotland, but even then across the tops it's going to be a very difficult picture with speeds at times in excess of 60 miles per hour. Some frequent or constant falls of rain and some snow, typically confined just to the highest tops. Let's run the sequence then through the weekend, and we may well start off largely dry for mid and south Wales and the South Pennines, but it will turn wetter through Saturday here as those fronts do roll in. Now, where you see some shading on the colours, that's where we've got some snow indicated by the model, and that will be around across the tops in the lakes and the highest parts of the Pennines at first, as that chilly air is still just around. Some snow really only confined to the highest Munros then across the Highlands. Heavy and constant falls of rain then will set in across much of England and Wales, across the mountains in the west through the daytime, and some fairly constant falls of heavy rain and summit snow for the Highlands in the morning. That will tend to break up a little bit and become showery across western regions through the afternoon, but still some frequent bursts of rain and some hail and some summit snow in there as well. All stays rather wet into the evening then for England and Wales, some further pulses of showers into Scotland as well. As we take the story on into the night and into Sunday, the next large area of rain expands northwards across Britain. Some uncertainty still how far north that will track into Sunday, so watch the forecast for that as we go through the day ahead. The risk of some constant rain turning to snow widely across the tops in the Highlands, if that does extend as far north as that. The northernmost regions may escape, with largely dry conditions and a few showers. Across England and Wales, though, it's extensive rain much of the day, occasionally breaking up, but you'll do well if you dry for any length of time, and the scope for some snow just on the highest tops in Wales and the lakes. That's the chart for Sunday then, and as mentioned, still some uncertainty just how far north this area of low pressure does move. It looks as though the most extensive rain is across England and Wales, but the scope for that to extend further northwards across Scotland with some snow into the Highlands as mentioned, so keep an eye on your local forecast updated during Saturday. Showery towards the northwest, northern Scotland generally escaping driest, and the least of the wind as well across the Highlands, whereas for England and Wales, the risk at least for part of the day of a spell of gales. Those winds may change quite quickly as this low moves through. Now into the new week, and Monday looks a classic day of weather leftovers really, with our area of low pressure clearing off toward the east, but leaving dregs of previous bits of fronts and showery troughs, enough to produce then some local clusters of frequent precipitation, and with chillier air dragging itself back in from the north or northwest. That will fall once again across the mountains as some snow or some hail in places to perhaps some lower slopes, especially in Scotland. Again, absolute detail is tricky. Expect a day where there's some dry and bright spells with some sunshine, but also some areas where that snow or hail may just set in for periods. Strong winds as well locally, gusty winds around showers. Those may well vary through the day. Expect it to feel chilly then out across the mountains. Waiting in the wings out to the west is the next Atlantic weather system, and that's got a warm front that will spill eastwards overnight and into Tuesday, introducing some milder air, temperatures lifting back to freezing point or above, even on the highest tops for a time. Again, detail in the forecast is going to be uncertain, but expect a wild day once again for Tuesday. The threat then of extensive gales or stormy winds even across the mountains as these southwesterlies once again pile in with some further fronts and a mix of rain and some summit snow, mainly across Scotland. Expect then a poor day as we stand for Tuesday, and even into Wednesday, the next weather system comes sweeping in from the west. Again, it looks a rather stormy picture. The centre of low pressure that's toward the north of Scotland, really quite a deep feature, and that's expected to pass eastwards through the day. So wild conditions again, severe conditions across the mountains, temperatures rising for a time within the warm sector, colder air returning from the west, and a sharp drop of temperature and freezing level once that moves through. I'm afraid to say it does set the scene for the rest of the week, because there's further areas of low pressure coming in from the Atlantic as well, developing on a powerful jet stream, and that will bring further stormy conditions and extensive precipitation. Again, a mix of rain and snow at times as temperatures do continue to rise and fall, possibly colder more widely for a spell, say around Friday, perhaps into the weekend as well, as we go into a chillier air mass that comes in from the North Atlantic on a more west by northwesterly flow. Broadly though, it stays unsettled and it stays very windy with severe gales or stormy winds likely still at times across the mountains. Just to finish with, maybe just looking for a glimmer of better weather on the horizon. Now this indicates the pressure pattern for the week as a whole. That's 7-day average, where you see the bluer colours, it's lower pressure dominating, the oranger colours, higher pressure. Now that's up until the 21st of February, so that's the full week ahead. The second week of the forecast up until the 28th of February does just indicate that higher pressure tries to expand a bit further northwards across Britain. We're still likely to have a jet stream that's passing north of Scotland, so the idea of some further weather systems grazing through here, but maybe just that suggestion of pushing things a bit further northwards to give greater chance for some more settled conditions, at least at times, particularly the further south you are across the British Isles. We shall see if that improvement is looking likely by this time next week. That is your Friday Planner for today in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.